For the month of February, we're creating space to talk about grief and the joy that can come after mourning. And today, I'm deeply honored to introduce our first guest, Ate Jing. Ate Jing joins us from the Philippines, sharing a story marked by deep loss, unwavering faith, and the quiet, holy work God does in the brokenhearted. As a wife, a mother, and a woman who has walked through profound grief, Ate Jing reminds us that joy doesn't disappear in the morning. It waits, grows, and meets us there. Friends, this is a conversation filled with honesty, compassion, and hope. Let's welcome Ate Jing. Hi, Ate Jing. Thank you for joining us on Hope Now today.
Hello. Global greetings, as we say, because this could be good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for having me, Amor.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for squeezing us into your busy schedule.
No, my pleasure. Pleasure is mine.
So, for the month of February, we are talking about loss. And Ate Jing will be sharing about her own personal struggle with grief. But before that, Ate Jing, could you tell us a little more about yourself?
My name is Jing. I'm based in the Philippines, born and raised in Pangasinan. And that's where I also met my husband, Romel. But we call him Papa Roms. Everybody calls him Papa Roms because he's a very sweet person and he likes to treat everyone as family. That's why, so even my friends would call him Papa Roms. I grew up in a small barangay within a city. Everything is simple. We grew up from humble beginnings with five siblings. We are six in the family. I'm the eldest. And at a very young age, I had to act as the parent. Kasi yung story of our lives in a nutshell, something happened, and then my father was sent to jail while I was 10 years old. And then my mother couldn't deal with it, so she had a nervous breakdown. And we had to make do with the situation. So at a very young age, I had to give away my siblings. So each one of us had to live with different families so we can survive because my father was locked up and then my mother had to receive special treatment from our relatives, right? So growing up, it's been tough, right? And then I met the Lord very early in life. It was during this time, actually. I was 11 or 12 when I accepted Christ into my life. And I guess that was the way for me to have gone through these things from a different perspective. Because now I had something to look forward to, like this will all also come to pass. And then at some point in time, with God's help, we will all be together again, me and my siblings, which is what happened. So that was my background. And there was a small church where I lived, and that is where I met my husband. So that's my part of the story. The part of his story is my husband was a gang leader. He led a gang of 14 young guys. So we had a youth pastor in the church, and he was trying to get them to a Bible study. And the only way he could get them to a Bible study is when they're playing basketball and during their breaks. So he would go there and they, of course, they don't want all of these, Christian stuff and good news and whatever that is, right? So they would make fun of the pastor. They would make it very difficult for him. Sometimes he would go and follow them when they would do their gambling sessions. I really love that pastor. He would sit and wait for them until they finish their games, and then he would talk to them about life. He would wait for them under the mango tree after they play their basketball, and he would talk to them. And when when Papa Roms finally said, "Okay, let's give this a chance," then that group of young men went into a Bible study. And so actually some of them are now pastors. Some didn't know, but from that group of young men, some of them are now, leading churches And then some of them, even if they did not continue, their children are now leaders of the church, youth leaders, and all of that. So, uh, and then that's where we met. We met at church, and we became friends. So it didn't start as like he liked me or I liked him. Nothing like that.
Wow, what a story. I didn't know that about Papa Roms. What a testimony.
Yeah, most people wouldn't know that about him. But if you get to know him, like when you talk to him, he would share the story. Yeah.
I'm sure, because it's a story of redemption.
Hmm.
That's beautiful. But at Tijing, when did the spark begin? When did you guys start seeing each other being more than friends?
More than friends, more than kuya. Actually, I was 16 when we became friends. Then when he started to confess his feelings, I was getting ready to go to college. I was so focused on, no, I have to finish my studies, keep your eye on the prize, get back your siblings, put life back together, help the family and all of that. So, he's very easy to like and love. He's so kind, he's so generous, but I was more focused on no love life. I'm still so young. I have to go to college. And so I told him, so we agreed, okay, the feeling is mutual, but we can't be together. I mean, this can't go anywhere. And so after a few years, maybe on my third year in college, he came back. Because he said, he was just waiting, right? He was just waiting and said, so maybe this time, And also in college, I've met other people. I've been with friends. I have other close friends. But from my side, in my heart, there is nothing that compares to the trust and closeness that we've had as friends. So when he came back, it's like, okay. So became a thing.
Like, how long did you guys date until you guys decided to tie the knot?
We got married after I graduated in college. I think I worked for about a year, and then we decided to get married. I was 23 when we got married. He was 27. Well, the Lord granted us a child, but then after Rio, we couldn't have another one. So
And Rio is now a very beautiful woman. How old is she?
can you believe it? He's now 25. Yes.
Wow.
So
What?
yes, she's now 25. She's now a preschool teacher. She's now living on her own. I'm now an empty nester. a very very early. So she lives in Manila and I live in the province.
And she's so beautiful. Um, what's your favorite part about being married to Papa Roms?
After 7 years of having lost him, what I really missed is having my person. So I guess to your question of, the best thing of being in a married life is having a person. When you're married, you know that you have a person. I don't know how to explain it. You have a person in your best days and in your worst days. You can be yourself. You can, you know that somebody's got you. And he is my person. He's my friend. He's my confidant. He makes me laugh. He's quite shy with other people, especially if you just met him. But once you get to know him, he's very goofy and he makes us laugh a lot. Me and Rio, he's a goofy one. He is also he's a handyman. Even with things that he knows completely nothing about. So maybe he's a handyman, not 100% effective, but he likes to try things, right, with his hands. So, repairing and constructing, deconstructing, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully, but, he is a handyman. And one of the things that I really credit him for, and even earlier into our relationship when we were still boyfriend, girlfriend, and into the marriage, is I grew up in a family where we are not very expressive with words. It's like you know that we love one another because we serve one another, right? But we don't necessarily say it. And with Papa Roms, he's very into expressing his feelings and his love with words. So in the beginning, I couldn't say, it was so difficult for me to say, I love you. I care for you. It's a pain. I didn't know how to do it. So I had to learn it from him. So I really, really credit that aspect of growth in terms of expressing love, expressing emotions, expressing feelings through words. And I learned that from Papa Ron. Even through conflict, I would default to giving a cold shoulder, cold treatment, because I didn't want to confront, I didn't want to use words. But he wanted to converse, he wanted to dialogue, right? So I'm very thankful to God for bringing people into our lives. I'd like to think that I also contributed into his life. Papa Roms, right? in other ways.
I love your story. You're right. Being married to the right person it's like making you whole. And that's what I feel in my marriage too. Just having that person who knows you. I remember one of my favorite songs, Flying Without Wings. It says, "The things that only I know are the things that make you mine." And
Oh,
you were talking about Papa Roms and you said he's actually goofy, although he looks shy and timid. And when he shows that side to you, it's special. That's what makes marriage special. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned that you have a heart. Do you still have? Is your heart okay now?
Yeah, I've had 2 heart surgeries. During my second heart surgery, they replaced my valve. So my valve is now like a mechanical valve. And so before this second surgery, my heart was functioning at maybe 60%. But after the surgery is now at maybe 95%. It's because the valve is now working properly and all of that. Um, I just have some dietary restrictions now that I have a foreign object in my heart. I have a maintenance medicine, but other than that,
Mhm.
I'm okay. But I can.
And did you mention that Papa Roms also had a medical issue?
So here's the thing: between Paprams and myself, between the two of us, he's the healthy one. He's careful about his diet. He runs, he exercises and all of that, um and so it came as a shock to us when he was found ill. So it just started with an abdominal pain. I'll give you the quick timeline. So June, we had a annual executive checkup. 3 of us, myself, Papa Roms, and Rio. And it was a clean bill of health for Papa Roms. Like all the numbers in his charts are good. Like blood work is okay, sugar, cholesterol, whatever, everything is fine. 2 months later, he had an abdominal pain and they couldn't find what the problem was. So after going through different doctors and then finally he was losing weight, and then it came to a point when he couldn't handle the pain anymore. That's when they took him in for a diagnosis. And they did what they called a laparoscopy. So they opened it up to check. And then they found that there was growth enmeshed within his digestive system, and it was aggressive. And that was it. He was there. He was admitted, and then he never recovered from it. He was in the ICU for 2 months. He never came out of that hospital again. And that is the same hospital where I had all of my heart surgeries. I couldn't believe it. Like I was coming, we were always here, right? For my procedures, for my checkups and everything. And here you have a healthy man who came in just for diagnosis and never made it. So that's what happened with him. He had form of blood cancer.
Huh.
Um it's not leukemia, it's a different type. And it hits you where it hits you. For him, it happened within the digestive system. And so that was so difficult because they couldn't take it out. Otherwise, they have to take out his whole stomach. And how could he survive, right? They were trying to manage it so that when he is strong enough, then they could start with the radiation and chemo. So we were told this was a kind of cancer that's very responsive to treatment, actually, but it is very aggressive that is difficult to catch. At some point, his system started to shut off until it was only the machines that was keeping him. And um, yeah, and then finally he gave out. All of this happened 2 months after he was declared very healthy by checkups. So maybe as a side story, um, in the years prior to that, we would always have our annual checkup, right? So 7 years later, I haven't had my annual checkup. And so this is something that I have to work with still. It's like, it never really worked well with with Papa Roms. But I'm not saying, you know, I'm just saying that's where I am at. Being that this year would be different, that I would finally get that executive checkup for this year because it's on your podcast now. I have to be accountable
I
and do
know.
it. So
Yes.
thank you for that,
You
Amor.
have
Yes.
people you'll have people asking, did Jing
Yeah.
go?
Bingo. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. So now I have to do it. Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that very vulnerable story. I'm sure it must have been so difficult for you, that 2 months of being in the hospital, seeing him
Oh yeah.
deteriorate. Um, how was that season for you? I know it seems short. 2 months seems so short, but when you're there, it must have been so long.
Oh yeah, every day is a very long day. Every day is a gift, especially those days when he was still able to communicate, talk with us, and then later on when he had all the things, communicate like a sign language, communicate with his eyes. But then half of that journey, he was in a coma. So the communication was now one-sided. We would always talk to him, play him music. Sometimes he would have tears in his eyes, but he couldn't talk back, right? So actually, my personal journey being by his side through all of this, Rio just started college when Papa Roms was hospitalized. From the day that we got in, I never left the hospital. I stayed there. I slept there. My sister-in-law or my sister would come, bring me clothes. Rio would come after class and visit, but she would go home. Sometimes she would go there and study and stay as long as the hospital allows her. But for me, I stayed there the whole time. Even when he was transferred to an ICU where we couldn't stay in the same room, I was just outside the door. The bench became home, the bench. I stayed there. I slept there and just waiting for all of the instructions from the doctors or the news. On top of it, processing requests for financial support. So this happened. I had no work. Okay. I just resigned from work a couple of months prior and then he got sick. And so he had no work. So this was all happening. None of us had work. And our daughter just started university. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that every day, whatever was needed um, to get him to survive was all we focused on. Looking back, a lot of it was a blur. I didn't know how I survived those 60, 70 days of staying in the hospital. But the Lord is so faithful. You know the verse that says the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. So my brokenheartedness didn't start when Papa Roms passed, right? It started when he was there because we were pleading for his life and we didn't know what the next day would bring us. But the Lord was close to the brokenhearted. Our church was very much a part of the community that helped us with this journey. My daughter was just starting university. I couldn't even take care of her. So her ninongs and ninangs are the ones making sure that she's okay. And then Papa Rom's family, they don't live in Metro Manila, but they would assign, people to be there week in and week out. My family also. And then our church here in Quezon City is really the one who also journeyed with us. The Compassion family were also part of the journey. People would come to visit, to pray with us, even raise funds with us. I don't know the extent of what people went through to help us, but I know that it is a lot. Basically, the household of faith from different churches and from different stages of your life suddenly converge together in this one moment of the timeline where you were journeying through the sickness and through the loss. So, yeah.
What a blessing to have a community And to know that at your weakest, God has sent you people to hold your back and to hold your hands. And you're right, to pray for you and to speak life to you when you feel so drained and so worried and so at a loss. Thank God for that.
Yes. And then, so that's what's happening outside, right? When I say outside, outside of myself or our immediate family. Now, what's happening on the inside is a different matter, because now in my head, in my heart, I know that all of these help is there, but I'm wrestling with a lot of other stuff. I'm wrestling with my faith in God, my faith in people, my faith in the system, in the medical system. A lot of that is happening. And then the year before Papa Rams got sick was the most difficult year in our marriage. We were going on our 19th year, right? There were some things that came up that we didn't encounter before. So we were grappling with a lot of issues in our marriage. And then we have a child who is already grown up, and we didn't know how to navigate it. So it was so difficult to the point that we thought we would not make it. We thought we would just give up on this marriage, even if you started so strong and so in love and all of that. I think any marriage would face that time when your relationship will really be tested. And for us, that was the year before he got sick. And so the months leading to his being confined in the hospital were the months when we were trying to repair the relationship. We were seeking help. There was a couple of counselors and spiritual directors who were working with us, and finally, we were getting a breakthrough, and we were trying to repair and mend the relationship. And then when we were at that point, when we are finally also ready to share the journey with a bigger group, was when he got sick. So I also have that to deal with in my mind. It's like, Lord, I thought everything is going well, right? And we were just coming back to improve our marriage, our relationship, and then this happened. And then he passed. So that was one added layer that I had to deal with, to grapple with, dialogue with, and complain about to the Lord. You didn't give us that chance. It's that it's so unfair. And we are going to our 20th year even. So in my mind, I would picture things in my head happening. And so at this point, I was picturing, oh, 19th year was a rocky year. And on our 20th, finally, we're okay. And then we could share the story with our friends that this is what happened. It never happened, because before we got to our 20th, we lost him. Just when I thought things are getting better, but they were getting better, except the physical side. We didn't know that he was not okay. That was another personal layer, and I talk about it with anyone except maybe the counselors who knew, and my daughter. In my heart, it almost felt like I'm smearing on his reputation. But that is what happened in our marriage at that time. It was a rocky time, and then we were reconciling. It's like getting to know one another once again and all of that. And it's like everything is promising, and then was suddenly cut short because he got sick. So in my mind, I had another layer of processing, one layer that I have to grapple with a complicated grief. You lost somebody, and then at the same time, you also had a lot of things that you felt were not resolved.
I think that's another kind of grief, because when we lost our twins, there were people asking, why was it so hard? You never spent a memory with them. And I feel like longing for a memory that never happened is a different kind of grief.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And
Yeah.
I feel like you were looking forward to a year of redemption with reconciliation and rekindling love. And for
Yes.
that not to happen, and knowing that it's not going to happen until we go to heaven, that's different kind of pain too. And I am very humbled that you shared that here. To me, there's nothing smearing about Papa Roms or about you or about your relationship as a couple. To me, it's a testament of you wanting your marriage to be honorable in the eyes of God, even though it was difficult, especially when it was the hardest. So thank you for sharing.
Going through all of these things with people who could guide you, I encourage it very much. I couldn't recommend it enough. We have our counselors, we have spiritual directors who journeyed with us. Of course, your friends and families are always there, but it's also important to have somebody trained because they could help guide you and navigate you as you search for answers. They don't give you the answers. They don't give you a timeline. There's no timeline for anyone who's going through grief. There's no timeline as to how many years or days you've spent with someone to say that you should only grieve this much. Grief always looks differently from one person to the next. It doesn't matter how long or how short you've stayed with the person. It's a loss nonetheless. And I'm glad you mentioned about the grief of losing the future. That perspective is one thing that has helped me later on during the journey. It made me realize I have a lot of things to go back to. The things you grieve most are the ones that hasn't happened. Ryu will graduate without his dad. She'll get married in the future without her dad. All of these milestones, it's the things that we are anticipating but wouldn't happen now with that person. That's a so you have a lot of perspectives happening, right? At the same time, you know that you're a Christian, I'm a Christian. So I know that I am grieving here, but Papa Roms is in a place where he is enjoying God, right? We are grieving that he's gone. But meanwhile, he has crossed this threshold and he's gone to a better place. And later on, we will join him there.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I know that a lot of people have this inner conflict of, I'm mourning and I'm grieving. But then when a slither of joy comes in, they have a hard time embracing it because, well, I'm supposed to be mourning. I'm supposed to be grieving. I wonder, when was the time when you first felt joy again in the middle of your grieving?
So the thing is, you mentioned that earlier, and I was thinking, I don't think that joy ever left. There is joy in our heart, but suddenly a grief that's bigger than our heart came. So joy never left, but there was a grief and there was no room for it. And I didn't know how to manage that. So there's this grief that's bigger than my heart. There is joy in my heart. And this is my first time to experience this ever. I didn't know how to manage it. But the thing is, over time, our heart grows. Our heart grows until such time when it's bigger than your grief. Your grief will always be there. I don't think you'll get over it ever because the person you lost will forever be part of your history, forever be part of your life. But now that you're starting to live life, widen your horizons, develop more relationships with your friends, with your family, with your loved ones, with your child or parents. So the natural progression is for your heart to grow bigger until it can accommodate. And when your heart grows bigger with more joy, your grief is still there, but it's not overwhelming anymore. But once your heart grows, the grief is still there, but sometimes it doesn't touch the walls of your heart. And during the moments when it touches the walls of your heart, you feel it. And when you feel it, it's okay. So sometimes I drive and a song that I haven't heard for many years suddenly played. I cry and I let myself cry. I cry while driving. There is a time when the joy that's in your heart would show itself. Just let it, Don't be guilty because all of these exist in the same space. There's no way you can say grief will go away or joy will go away and we can only live if only joy is here. It's always there. But I encourage you that if at this time in your grief journey, the grief is bigger than your heart, that's just how it is. Over time, it will change. I won't say it will get better because maybe it will not get better, but it will change. The way grief shows up in your life will be different 2 years from now, 5 years from now. For me, it's 7 years. I still grieve, but it's not the same as how grief showed in my life 7 years ago, right?
Ate Jing, that is so beautiful. Grief may be bigger than your heart right now, maybe bigger than the joy that you have in your heart right now, but eventually your heart will grow bigger than the grief. How hopeful is that?
That's how the Lord meets us, right? He wants our heart. He wants us to grow in hope, in all of these fruits of the Spirit that He wants us to have. For me, that picture is growing the heart. Growing the heart, not just by yourself, also by expanding your relationships, journeying with others. There will always be a portion of your grief journey that only you can understand and only you can carry. And that's okay. That's okay. So people will come and journey with you to the extent that they can. And it's also okay. So they will not be there for the whole time, or they will not understand a big part of it, but that's also okay. People will journey with you, but it's unfair to expect them to understand what you're going through, right? Because of that, I don't take offense in people showing their love for you in ways that are not helpful. Because sometimes the way that people journey with you are not helpful, right? But that's the only way that they can show, you know. And that people will come and offer their condolence or journey with you, but they say the wrong things.
I want to share when we were grieving, I actually went off any communications for a whole month. I know they're worried because, they want to be with me. But I
Yeah.
said, I cannot. I don't have the space. The reason why I did that is because I feel like there's nothing anyone could say that could help my heart right now. Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like the most comforting thing that people told me was every time they say, I don't know what to say. I have no
Yeah.
words for you. And I feel like those are the people who truly understand. So, yeah, there are people who do not know how to grieve with you. And sometimes it's because they did not have the capacity to do that because they don't know what it
Yes.
feels like.
We're just sometimes bad at grieving because we don't know. We don't know that it's different for every person, you know. So I think during that process, that also helped me to sort of expand the awareness of people that sometimes the best way you can journey with the person is just your presence, right? I'd rather a person ask me, "How are you this morning?" That I can answer. If they ask me, "How are you?" I don't know how to answer that. I don't know if this is a valid observation, but some people will say there's also a widow's brain, you know, like you function differently. I think it's true because in the past, you know that you're not alone when you decide, when you function, and then suddenly everything is up to you, right? Decisions are now not 50-50. It's 100% you now. A lot of things that you have to navigate, but give yourself grace and give other people grace. So there's no timeline, there's no right way. Even if I wanted to be alone, there was still enough people around me to know that they have to leave me alone, but they can't leave me totally alone. You know what I mean? For example, I didn't know how to drive, and Papa Roms has left a car. So what will I do with it? So I enrolled and learned, but I was too afraid to go out. And I didn't know how to park. I didn't know how to. They would just go there, bring coffee, and then they'll help me drive out of the gate and go through the neighborhood and back. And they say, "See, it's okay. You can do it." Next week, they'll come back with coffee. Okay, Jing, now let's practice again. you know, small things. They're giving you practical support, but they're journeying with you on your pace, I guess. So,
Oh, that's amazing. Thank God for people like that. It's exactly the grace that you needed at the moment.
oh, perfect. Yes, that's the term. The grace that you need at the moment. And by me, I mean not just me and my daughter, right?
I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story. That was so inspiring, encouraging. I could really see God's hand over you and over Rio and even over Papa Roms. It's amazing that he's always there. When you guys were going through hard times, he never left. That's basically the main theme. Even though life was hard, God was there. And looking
Yes.
back at everything that we went through, not just in grief, but in hardships, God was there. And I feel like now that's a comfort that we all can hold on to in the future when hard times come back again.
Yeah. And I'd like to add to what you said. God is there even when you don't feel that He's there. There will always be time when you don't feel like He's there, when you know in your brain that He is faithful and He's looking after you, but it doesn't reach your heart. Just continue to hang on to that truth. And if you cannot by yourself, then God will send people to help you do that.
Amen. Thank you so much. Ate Jing, one last message. What would you say to someone who's still in that deep place of grief and can't imagine feeling joy again?
um, I have to tell you, you're not alone. Even when you feel like you're alone in this, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. That's in Psalm 34:18. So God is with you through all of this journey of brokenheartedness and the crushed spirit that you are going through. God is holding you in the palm of His hands, and He, without you knowing, He is stationing people around you to help you through this journey. God is always on your side and by your side and with you throughout all of this journey.
Amen. Thank you so much, Ate Jing. Friends, as we close, I've asked Ate Jing to end our time with a prayer in her native language. And I know that we may not understand what verbally she's saying, but I know that we are in one spirit. And I pray that this prayer could comfort you and could bless you in whatever season you are in right now.
Before I pray, I want to thank you for this opportunity that you have given me to share a part of my story. So hopefully it has blessed at least one person out there. So let us pray and thank the Lord for this time. Katawan min Diyos, mi salamat kami si kakatawan at sayan oras ya intermood si kami, pangkanawnawa ya unarap kami at sika ya pawilem mi iray istorya na no paano niya inibaan mo kami at sayan tinalan min ang sakit, dinalanan min mairap, pero katawan anang nangmi amin ya amin ya agawa ya saysakay ya bengatla ya wa mananaynay at si kakatawan na Diyos mi. Ya akan ang paulyan na si kami, bumbang mo so puso mi, si kannaynay so mangiiter na panangaro at si kami, si kannaynay so mampapakasil at si kami, tapyano mampatuloy kami at pilay, mampatuloy at panangaro at arong. Diyat pamilya mi, diyat sari totoon inaawit mo at bilay mi. Salamat katawan, ta si kaso Diyos, impangakong at sa may salita, miya si kaso Diyos, ya manangaro si kami, lalo la at saray panaun, ya agaylay sakit na dadalanan mi katawan, at si kaso kaiba min naynay. So, so pikakasig at saray wajanata niya, dudengal mo at katawan, ya sikaso akuluy at say puso da, patuloy ya indamura katawan na pangkanawnawa, ya mas lalo da kan nakabat at sayan dadalanan da, lalo da nakapat sa panangarong. Ug ngaran ni Jesus, so pikakasimi. Amen.
Amen. Thanks for listening to Hope Now. If this story encouraged you, share it with someone who needs a little hope today. Until next time, remember, hope lives here. Subscribe and join us for new episodes of Hope Now. Real stories, real faith, real hope. Now.